Hey guys, what's up? This is Chaos here. I'm back here with another one. Now, in this video, I'm reviewing Crowbar Self titled. This is album review number 32. Now, for the introduction, first off, I want to get into it and necessarily say this is a highly emotional album, at least for me and many other people listening to it. This whole album, except for the cover it has, but this whole album is basically, the way I see it, is like imprisonment within yourself, necessarily internal struggles, internal pain, and it's a lot to get over, especially all these meanings throughout this album. It's very heavy, it's very emotional, but with that being said, this is album review number 32. Let's get into the first song, High Rate Extinction. Now, what I want to say is the meaning I have personally gotten out of the song necessarily is about the government or the devil controlling things behind the scenes, twisting your mind, warping your perception, changing things necessarily. Nobody has real true individualism or a real self-conscious necessarily, because when you're conscious you are aware of everything around you and you realize everything, but nobody has a true conscious necessarily nowadays, and nobody necessarily, even thousands of years ago, they didn't, because governments and civilizations and kings and queens and monarchs and etc., bishops, popes, anybody who controls anybody necessarily, you don't have your own free will. You really don't. Now, there's laws and stuff for certain bad things, but necessarily, I would like to say, if we could be smart enough, intellectual people, we wouldn't need laws. And if you're going to mess up, let somebody mess up. Let somebody get strung out on crack. Now, they need to be aware of exactly what these things do necessarily. Now, let's say, the difference is with some people is that they can actually go necessarily and bring themselves up out of this, but almost everybody, it's very hard, especially on your own, and everybody has the true strength, they just don't realize it. But other than that, besides my little rant, that's basically the meaning I necessarily get out of this song. Now, my honest number review of this song, of High Rate Extinction, I would have to give a 7 out of 10 necessarily. 7 out of 10. It's a pretty decent song, a song I'd probably listen to on the radio if it did come on, or if it came on Spotify, I'd probably play it for a little bit, depends, whatever, if I'm doing something, etc. So it's one of those songs for me necessarily. Now, with that being said, those are my own thoughts, my own interpretation of the song. Let's go into the next song, All I Had, All I Gave. Now, it's kind of obvious what this is about, necessarily to a friend, a family member, but I'm pretty sure he's referring to a friend. He might have had deep, true feelings to them, necessarily, something like that. Now, with this being said, it's simple. He gave everything, and it wasn't enough. It really wasn't enough, and it backfired on him, and it hurts a lot necessarily, and it really screwed him up emotionally. Now, I'm not sure if this is about the singer, or if this is something the singer saw, or someone else in the band, but it's very simple meaning. Other than that, I'd like to go into my honest number review of this song. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. It's a solid hitter, really. I'm gonna listen to this more than some of these other songs. Now, with all of that being said, those are my personal thoughts about this song, All I Had, All I Gave. Now, let's go into the cover they did of Led Zeppelin, No Fucking Quarter. Now, I love, this is a really cool classic rock song necessarily, metal and rock song necessarily, stoner rock, sorta, kinda. Other than that, I'm not going to go into the actual meaning, because I don't go into meanings of covers during these usually. I like to necessarily go to the album. If I do review that album, I'll tell the meaning then, so I don't want to spoil it necessarily. But I would like to get off topic. Well, not topic. It's still about the song. But I want my essentially, my favorite cover by any band that's done No Quarter is Tool. I think they do it flawlessly and amazingly. I think it's pretty cool, their whole thing of how they do it. And that's how I know No Quarter. That was the first time I ever heard No Quarter. And then I heard the Led Zeppelin, and now I've heard the sludge slash crowbar No Quarter. Now, the way they do it, it's really cool. It's really crowbar sounding, sludge sounding, doom sounding necessarily. But my personal number review of this song, I'd have to give it an 8 out of 10 necessarily. Now I don't have a whole lot to say about this song about No Quarter. Just it's usually been one of my favorite covers by Tool of all time. Other than that, let's go into my favorite song of this album, off of this album necessarily, which is called "Existence is Punishment." Now I like this. I'm gonna start out to say I have a really deep emotional connection to this. I understand this a lot. It's like being in a relationship with somebody, a love relationship, and somebody dies, something happens, and it's just like you're questioning yourself, you're questioning everything, your faith is still strong in whatever you follow, and I'm guessing God, Jesus, something like that necessarily. Your faith is still strong, but you just want to give up, but you just have to, it's punishment. It is exactly punishment. You just have to keep going, but you keep dealing with it, the same sickening chest, deathly feeling in your chest and stomach necessarily. Despair. It feels like shit. Now, that's my own personal interpretation for it. Now, let's go into my honest number review of Existence. It's Punishment. I give it a 10 out of 10. 20 out of 20. Day to day, I listen to the song more than 10 times a day, something like that. I can heavily relate to it. I really like it. It sings me necessarily, but essentially that's my honest number review, my honest thoughts of Existence is Punishment. Now let's go into the next song, Holding Nothing. Well, right before I want to get into this song, I could have picked a couple other songs off of this album which are really good, but I chose this song necessarily. It's a 9 out of 10 for me. I'm going to just start out to say that. 9 out of 10, pretty close to 10, honestly. I thought I'd just give it a 9 instead of a 10, because I can't have necessarily everything at 10 out of 10, even though you do see that sometimes in some of my other album reviews. Other than that, this is also very heavy, very emotional connection to me necessarily. I think this song could be about a mother or a father that this kid never necessarily grew up with. He never grew up with an actual figure in his life, necessarily an idol or anything. So he grows up he's holding on to nothing, He has nobody to teach him how to become a man necessarily, and how to do what's proper, And this is a really immense song, for everybody who doesn't have a father out there, especially father if you're a boy, because you do need one, and with a girl you do need a mother. That's the most important thing, and I'm not trying to sound sexist or anything, but you really do need the same gender as you are to show you how to do things necessarily, especially as that gender, because there's certain things you just do as your gender. Now you can become trans or whatever and etc., but it's harder necessarily to connect or relate. Other than that, that's my honest thought about Holding On to Nothing. Now let's get into my honest necessarily number review. 9 out of 10. I already said that earlier. Other than that, let's go into the extra information of this awesome heavy doom/sludge metal band. Now, my overall thoughts on this self-titled album are pretty fucking positive. Personally, I'm gonna give this album a 10 out of 10. Not too many albums I do that, but you tend to see I have done that for a few in the past. Now, I'm going to do many more albums in the future, and Luke will be soon also. Now, necessarily, the thing is, we haven't been pumping out necessarily as much as we thought we would have, but that's alright. Other than that, I'm getting off sidetrack necessarily, so let me talk a little bit more about this album. Now, in sludge and doom, you see kind of a mix of death metal-ish vocals, sometimes thrash stuff, which is a song I don't think I reviewed, which I should have actually reviewed, but I wrote everything down. I wrote the script when I was pretty tired, but I think it's called Self-Inflicted. That's an amazing song. I really should have put it on there. I really should have. Other than that, I'm sorry about that. But this has a very good, like I was saying, sludgish, doom metal, death metal, thrash vibe to it. I can definitely see the whole mixture in this coming in as one whole. Now, necessarily, this album came out in 1999, and it sold over 100,000 copies in its lifespan necessarily. Now, this album was produced by Phil H. Insama, which is a fun fact out there, guys, and I can definitely see the similarities with Down in this band because he produced it necessarily, and I'm sure his name helped the copy soul necessarily, especially for this album. Now I don't know if they're good friends, the singer or whatever, but I'm assuming so. Other than that, these are my honest thoughts. Look at some of these more pictures, etc. Let me get to. There we go. So this is my honest thought overall of this whole album. This is album review number 32, Crowbar Self, titled. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Have a good day. Don't let anybody bring you down. Stay positive. Stay charismatic. Keep fucking going and don't stop, guys. I hope you enjoy this one. This has been Chaos.